Welcome to a 2020 fantasy football mock draft, the walterfootball.com. We're doing a 12-team standard format today on August 20th. Joined once again by Jacob Camenker of Sporting News. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great. Look forward to this mock. I'm going to be using Sporting News rankings for the first time this week, so things are going to get a little bit different. You know my draft strategy usually, but I'm following these to a T, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Jacob's drafting 5th. Also, Kenny at Fantasy Jabber drafting 10th. Kenny, how are you?
I'm feeling great, and I'm excited about fantasy football coming back because I'm gonna, with the Sixers being terrible and the Phillies not being good, I almost have to pretend like hockey matters and almost have to watch the Flyers. But I'm glad fantasy football is coming back.
Well, you once famously said that hockey's not a sport, so that's saying a lot. I'm drafting 2nd. I haven't drafted this early yet, so I'm kind of excited to get one of the top running backs. I assume, it's either Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey. I'll have the choice. I'll be forced into that. There we go, McCaffrey, and I'm.
Are you on auto draft?
Yeah, I'm on auto draft. Okay, I screwed up. So pretend I drafted Saquon Barkley. I clicked computer control instead of player alert notifications. So,
wow, that is what a time. That's a bummer. I was going to take Henry at 5 probably. To be honest,
were you really?
I was. He's 3rd in Sporting News' running back ranking, so I was going to go with him. But now I have to switch, and I am going to go with the number 5 player because I don't want Dalvin Cook, who's at 4. So we actually have Nick Chubb ranked at 5. So I mean, there are some other guys you could obviously argue for taking. I think Kamara stands out, but in standard, I think Nick Chubb at this point, he was 2nd in the league in rushing last year. So if he can repeat that and break some tackles, he'll be pretty good overall. And I think he's safer than Cook too. That's why I'm going with him.
Yeah, and Kenny, you're about to be up, but I think, obviously I would have taken Saquon Barkley there. I don't like Derrick Henry at all this year, but luckily for this exercise, I could pretend that's a running back. It's still a running back, so I don't have to really change my strategy.
And I am up right now. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say,
I mean, are you sure? Well, you sure you don't really like Derrick Henry? Is this? Are you just?
Well, we'll find out soon enough because we have our own fantasy draft coming up somewhat soon. So you're up, Kenny. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going Josh Jacobs here. I have fallen in love with Josh Jacobs, man, as a player. I don't think I realized it right now. Before we started recording, I talked about it. I've been rewatching the 2019 season and watching just on Game Pass. They are not a sponsor, but if they want to be a sponsor, if anyone listening to this works for Game Pass, let us know. I love Josh Jacobs. I think I have him ranked significantly higher than I think most people. I have him just behind the top tier. To me, it's Barkley, McCaffrey, Chubb, Kamara. Like that's my top 4. And then the next crew is like Joe Mixon, and I would take Josh Jacobs ahead of Dalvin Cook. Ahead of almost all the other guys that are being drafted kind of late 1st, early 2nd right now.
Yeah, and you're up again. So what are you thinking for this pick?
Yeah, more and more. I am more and more convinced that I want to walk away with multiple running backs early in the draft this year. There are some receivers here that I really like. I changed my mind. I'm going to go Tyreek Hill. I forgot he's still on the board. I love Tyreek Hill. The Tyreek Hill is probably the only receiver here. I would consider Hopkins or Julio Jones. But if Tyreek Hill is not on the board here, I probably would have gone for a 2nd running back.
Yeah, and Kenny, one thing you mentioned about your tiers, though, you said, did you say Kamara was in the top 4, or is he below Josh Jacobs in your opinion? I'm just curious.
I would put him in the top. To me, it's McCaffrey, Barkley, Elliott, Kamara is like my top 4.
Okay.
With Nick Chubb just slightly. I mean, I'm actually honestly, you can make an argument that Nick Chubb's in that group, in that top 5. Or you're on the board now.
Oh yeah, I'm coming up. So let's see what I've got going. So I want probably another running back unless there's a receiver value that I really like. And Hopkins has not been picked yet, actually.
Right.
So I'm going to test out what it looks like if I go with Hopkins because we have him as a top 10 player at Sporting News. I think he ultimately goes lower than that, and I do want to come out of the first 3 rounds with at least 2, if not 3 running backs. It's been a while since I haven't taken 3 straight running backs to start the draft, so I'll go with Hopkins, assuming that he'll do well with Kyler Murray. And I kind of like the duo of Chubb and Hopkins. I think both of them are kind of high volume guys and very consistent. So we're going with consistency right now. That's what I'm giving it a shot.
Nice. Hopkins is I'm not a huge fan of him this year because Kyler Murray runs so much. I know Deshaun Watson scrambled a lot too, but Kyler Murray ran more than Watson did last year. So I don't hate the pick, definitely not. But I'm a little bit down on him. But I think and toward the end of the second round is not decent value. So I'm up again. Luckily, I don't have the computer drafting for me again. So where is he? Oh crap, he was taken already. I'm gonna go with Melvin Gordon. There's a lot of hype with Philip Lindsay. He's doing well in training camp thus far. Melvin Gordon's so talented. And the Broncos just signed an offensive lineman to replace Juwan James, so I thought that was a big deal. So I'm up again. I missed Le'Veon Bell getting taken. Early second round. That's a lot earlier than I expected. Chris Carson just went. I would have gone with him if he were available. Todd Gurley still left. So I'm going to go with Gurley as my third running back. So I'm not completely relying on him, but I think in that offense, he should score a ton of touchdowns and get a decent number of receptions, especially if the Falcons are worse than I expect them to be, and they're down a lot, and he's going to have to catch a ton of passes, kind of like Devontae Freeman has over the years. Optimally, I would have gone Saquon Barkley, then Melvin Gordon, then Todd Gurley. Not crazy about the start because I thought I was going to get Le'Veon Bell or Devin Singletary. So it looks like we're drafting with some sharp people, but not a bad start.
Yeah, I like what you're doing. I think you got guys that have a high touchdown upside, and my guy just got picked. I was going to take Leonard Fournette. This is bad. This is not good right now. I am all out of luck at running back in terms of the rankings I'm looking at from Sporting News. So I think I'm going to have to just go with one of the guys that is available at the running back position or take another receiver. God, I really don't like any of these options, but I'm going to go with David Johnson, and we're just going to give him a shot to see if he could stay healthy. I mean, he was once a top back overall, and now I got both pieces of the DeAndre Hopkins, David Johnson trade, so that can't go bad, right? That can't be too much of a disaster.
It all worked out. Jonathan Taylor just went. That's a little early than I would have expected. Definitely not the worst pick because he could start, but then Marlon Mack is slated to start week 1. So, Kenny, you're about to be up.
Yeah, about to be up. Right now I'm regretting taking a receiver in the second round. I wish I would have taken Devin Singletary or Kenyon Drake, top of the second. And the guy that I was looking at, Kenny Golladay, just went. So, now I'm feeling like I'm going to be reaching. But I feel like I have to walk away with. I want to walk away with some running backs here that I really like. So in this case, I'm there's not receivers that I love here that I think won't make it back to me. There's a part of me that wants to consider another position, but it's just not going to happen. So I'm going to go here with DeAndre Swift from Detroit, the rookie. A little early probably for him, but I have determined of all my mock drafts and everything I've been doing. I've been determined I want to walk away from the first 7 rounds with at least 4 running backs that I trust. That's my goal. If not 5. If I walk away with 5 running backs in 7 rounds that I trust, because the more and more I've been watching the 2019 season and thinking about this next upcoming season, I am not confident in my ability to find running backs I trust in the second half of the draft. And I'm back up again. And so I think it's likely that I will end up going. I don't know that there's a receiver here I love. There's a couple guys that I would consider here, but I think I'm going to go running back again. And I'm going to reach, but I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins, who I just absolutely love. And
I already highlighted him, ready to delete him because I knew you were going to take him.
I love them, and I don't watch a lot of college football, so I am not a college football guy, but I watch the big schools. So obviously, I watch Penn State. Play Ohio State. I watch Big Ten games, the guy's just better than everyone else, and I love that system. And I know he may not be the starter at first, but I just think there's a lot of running to go around in that offense, and I'm convinced he's going to be better than Mark Ingram in the second half of the year. So I'm a fan of J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I think you made the right pick in terms of the Ravens backfield. I think Dobbins comes on at the end of the year, so you want him over Ingram. I'm curious to see how long Dobbins would have lasted if you didn't take him there, or if someone would have scooped him in the early fifth. Looks like I'm on the clock again. Yeah, see, this is what I hate. There's like no running backs that I really want to take here, so I'm going to go with the receiver. I'm trying to pick. There are a few guys I like on the board here. I am going to go with I think I'm going to go with a guy who I wouldn't normally go with, but the people who I do the Sporting News fantasy rankings with are pretty high on Amari Cooper in the Dallas offense. And I believe he is ranked 23rd overall, making him the highest ranked receiver left on our board. I considered Odell Beckham there, but I already had Nick Chubb, so I didn't want to contra stack Browns too much and just have way too many Browns. So I think Cooper's solid, but he always fades down the stretch. So I'm going to want to have some good backup receivers in case that happens again.
Yeah, Cooper was the number 2 receiver on my board, so I definitely would have taken him with one of these 2 picks. So I definitely like that. Kenny, your pick of Swift was interesting because this is the earliest I've seen him gone, but I love it. I love DeAndre Swift. He's my favorite running back in this class, and hey, look at these reaches and running back. Like I like Ronald Jones in like round 6 or 7, and round 4 I don't love it, but I don't blame Team 3 for picking him because this running back group is so thin. It's unbelievably thin. So so I'm up, and I'm curious to see if this next guy will come back to me. So I'm going to take DJ Moore, who was a receptions monster last year. Kind of excited to have him on my roster. Like ideally, you'd want him more for PPR because he catches so many passes. But he's going to get better. This is his 3rd year. I expect another big leap from him. So DJ Moore, I'm pretty fine with him being my number 1 receiver. There are a lot of receivers here in this area I like, so that kind of reinforces my thinking that you should go running back, and maybe even running back a 3rd time to start the draft.
Yeah, I agree. There are like 3 or 4 receivers that I really would consider, in the top of the 4th round here instead of J.K. Dobbins. But I am confident that at least one of them will make it back to the bottom of the 5th, which is the reason why there's 4 guys that I really like that I would have considered there. Let's hope. I'm hoping that at least one of them makes it back, but I'm confident at least one will.
Okay, so there's one receiver I have above AJ Brown right now. I love AJ Brown. I've talked about him a lot in these mock drafts that we've done. And yeah, this is funny because I have Henry and AJ Brown, but not really. So he was amazing last year in his rookie year. I'm expecting big things from him this upcoming season. There's one other receiver I have, and I'm not going to mention him until he's drafted. I have him ranked higher. Oh, there he goes, Cortland Sutton. I just want to see where he goes because I feel like I've been taking him a lot in these mock drafts, and he's been going later in according to the ADP. So, I like my start to this outside of the Henry fiasco.
Yeah, that was the one thing the thing I'm confused about is why did the computer take Henry? Like, I think Barkley was ranked higher in the fantasy football calculator ranking. So, I'm a little bit confused by that. I'm going to take Odell Beckham Jr. because I mentioned him last time, and I have him literally 1 spot below Amari Cooper in my rankings. I don't love having, Nick Chubb and Odell Beckham, but I actually think I had that at one point last year, and it was a train wreck. So I don't know why I did that, but I will most likely regret that given my situation at running back and how weak that's going to probably be.
Well, I think it's good to test this out though. Like this is not your real draft, obviously it's a mock draft. So, it's good to see like how your team would go if you would go with Hopkins, just to know like, okay, yeah, I definitely have to go running back early because running back is thinner than ever this year. And Kenny, you're up.
Robert Woods just went. He was one of the guys. Cortland Sutton would have been one of my guys that went after your pick. So, but my other 2 guys that I was targeting here are both on the board. I am going to go with there's 1 of 2 guys I like, but I'll go with my man DJ Chark, who I feel like I just absolutely love the talent. I love him as a player. If I had to do this over again, though, instead of J.K. Dobbins, I probably would have gone Cortland Sutton. I guess in my mind, I thought Cortland Sutton would have lasted. I have been the biggest Cortland Sutton fan for dating back to about week 8 last year. Pretty much the president of his fan club, I think. And so if I had to do this over again, I would go Sutton instead of Dobbins. But I guess we can reflect on that at the end of the draft.
Yeah, and look at all these receivers. I keep hammering this every single week, every single time we do this. Kenny, you're up. I'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm. And this is a spot where it's like I really want to walk away from this. I really want to draft a running back here. I don't want to force it, but I think there's receivers here I like, but I don't love. But there's some running backs I don't love either, and so I feel like I'm struggling here to make a determination. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go with Philip Lindsay, who I don't love in this spot, but I feel like at least I get some volume and trust him a little bit here, and so at least it gives me 4 running backs in the first 7 rounds that I feel like I'm comfortable with.
I would have taken Lindsay with my next pick, so I very much like your strategy at this point. I prefer taking Lindsay. I think I got him in the 7th round a couple times, but I think he's going to be a classic dude who's going to be on the rise because he's building positive buzz at camp. That Melvin Gordon signing seems to have lit a fire under him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Kenny, you're about to be up. Okay, or Jacob, you're up now.
Okay, so let's see. I desperately need a running back in case David Johnson goes down. And there really aren't a lot of dudes that I like at this point, but I think the highest rated guy I had after I'm gonna go with Tevin Coleman. Solely because if Raheem Mostert doesn't pan out, I think Coleman ends up being the guy in San Francisco. So I mean, not consistent, and Shanahanigans are annoying, but at least it gives me someone else at running back. And I'm not feeling good about this running back room I've got right now. Too many questions beyond Nick Chubb.
Yeah, it's that's kind of like what happens when you don't go running back early. And I was pointing out, like, look at all the receivers who have gone. Like Stephon Diggs number 1, AJ Brown's number 1, Cortland Sutton's a number 1. So like all these Odell Beckham, obviously maybe a Pro Bowler this year. All these receivers drafted in round 5 most of them at least seem excellent. And then you have the running backs like Cam Akers may not have a job. Philip Lindsay currently number 2. Tevin Coleman currently number 2. It's very rough. And so again, like, you have to go running back early because you can get very good values here. For example, let's hopefully this guy's not drafted. Okay, Will Fuller is the number 1 receiver in Houston. I'll take that in the 6th round for sure. So yeah, I'm pretty thrilled about that.
Yeah, I like Fuller's upside. Like, obviously he can't stay healthy, but like, what if he does? Like, he's the guy there, and like Deshaun Watson loves throwing the ball to him. So I love that pick. Your team's shaping up to be really good, Walt. And again, I think it hammers out the point. You need 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds, and preferably 3 in the first 3.
Yeah, it is weird to do that because, like, generally we've been drafting receivers in previous years. But yeah, now it's things have changed a lot. So here we go. Deebo Samuel he may not be ready for week 1. But he's my 4th receiver, so I don't really need him to be ready for week 1. So I'm pretty excited to have Samuel. If he were healthy, he'd probably be going in the 4th round, maybe 3rd round. So to get him here at the value here and the fact that I don't need him to play right away, I think is pretty solid. So if you can get Deebo Samuel in the 7th round of your drafts, I'd definitely recommend taking him.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've read, he's going to be he's not going to be out several weeks. He's not going to start on PUP. And he may not be ready for week 1, but he will be ready at some point in the first 4 weeks or less. Maybe week 2, week 3.
Yeah, I was considering CD Lamb too. He's the other receiver I was considering it in the 7th round. But I guess like Samuel was so good last year, and I think the fact that I wouldn't need him right away, and I guess you could say the same thing about Lamb. Jacob, you said earlier, Amari Cooper tends to fade down the stretch, so maybe Lamb has a big playoff run. So Jacob, you're up on the clock.
Yeah, and it looks like Michael Gallup just went off the board too. So we got back-to-back Dallas receivers, all 3 going in the first 6.5 rounds. I'm going to take another running back who will have a job at the start of the year. Marlon Mack plays behind the best offensive line in the NFL, the Colts. They are number one in my O-line fantasy rankings. So I am happy to get Mac, even if he isn't the starter the full season. I'll just use him as an insurance policy early on in case Johnson struggles or in case Nick Chubb continues to be banged up, because I think he has a concussion right now. So I'm making do with what I got at running back right now.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, because if Jonathan Taylor weren't there, Marlon Mack would be going in the third round, like just based on the running backs available. But yeah, like, you can roll. I feel like at the position you have to roll the dice at this point in your fantasy draft with all these running backs. Like every single running back drafted after Ronald Jones is either a backup or potential starter.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. It's crazy how many running backs have gone in the first 4 rounds. Like I know we're drafting with sharp people, but it's really crazy to me.
Kenny, you're up.
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, there's no running backs here that I think I have to have, and I think just about anything I can get here, I can get a few rounds later. So I'm not in love here, but there's really nothing here I love. I'm at any position I feel confident I can get better later. So I'm going to reach a little here, but I'm going to take one of my absolute favorite guys on the board. His ADP is really like round 9 in most cases. I'm going to take him here bottom round 7. I don't care, and that's Deonte Johnson, just because I freaking love him as a player. I've been watching 2019, and man, maybe this is a sneak preview of our sleepers view next week. He will be very high on my sleepers list. If there were no names on the back of players, and I was watching the Steelers, I'm up here again. If I was watching the Steelers, and you told me, who's the best? That number 18 is really good. I'm like, oh yeah. If someone said, oh yeah, Juju's the best receiver on the Steelers, and I said, oh, number 18, and if you said, oh no, it's number 19. I go, well, 18 is the best receiver on the Steelers. Like, if I didn't know better, number 18 is better than number 19. And that's Deonte Johnson. So I absolutely love him as a player, even though I'm reaching for him in the 7th round. So here I am now in round 8. And I feel like I'm going to be reaching here. But I'm going to take the guy I have as my second best quarterback, which is way too early to draft a quarterback. But in the 8th round is way too early for a quarterback, but there's no one here that I absolutely love. And I got confidence that I can get tight ends later in the draft. So I'm going to go Deshaun Watson, who I have as my second best quarterback. To me, it's Mahomes and Watson going into 2020. And I've got a little bit of a distance between those two guys and the rest of the field.
I love Deshaun Watson. You're up, Jacob.
Yeah, I just got scooped again. I was going to take Kyler Murray here. This is I can't believe this keeps happening. I am so unprepared to get scooped. Like, this happens like once of every 5 mocks we do. So I think I'm going to go with the sleeper receiver then. Try to wait one more round on a quarterback. I'm going to scoop up Darius Slayton from the Giants here. I think, like, as my 4th receiver behind Hopkins, Cooper, and Beckham Jr., I think his upside's through the roof. So if one of those dudes struggles, I can replace them with Slayton. So I really love my receiving core. So that's like the silver lining here. I just think my running backs are a big risk at this point. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I'm comfortable with Slayton as the 4th dude there.
You stole my pick. I was going to take Slayton. I love Slayton. I feel like I've drafted him in every single mock we've done so far. So yeah, disappointed. If this were real life, I'd be very upset. But it is a mock draft, thankfully. So yeah, I feel like we're drafting with such sharp people that all the good players are taken. So I think it's time to go to the sleepers in round 8, which is not ideal, but usually you want to start drafting sleepers late round 9 or round 10. Is Chase Edmonds gone? Is he? Oh no, I'm under receivers. There we go. Chase Edmonds. I liked what I saw out of him last year. Kenyon Drake has never handled the full workload. And you had Cliff Kingsbury this week say that Chase Edmonds is a starting running back in the NFL. So that kind of made me wonder if maybe Chase Edmonds is going to start some games this year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I like the pick. I also like James White went 1 pick after Edmonds, and he's a guy that I would absolutely consider taking because he's going to have a big role. I know this isn't PPR, but 8th round is a steal for him, and you're on the clock again, I think, Walt.
Yeah, going with the other New England running back, Damian Harris, who's gotten a lot of starting snaps in training camp thus far. We don't know how he's looked because it's the Patriots, and it's kind of like communist government trying to get information out of them. But if they're giving him first team snaps, I'm interested. You never know with Bill Belichick and his running backs. But Damian Harris, I liked him at Alabama. He was a third-round pick. We didn't see him last year, but maybe Belichick has more faith in him this year.
Yeah, you stole my pick this time around, so now we're even. But Belichick tends to do that like 1 year off. When they draft a guy, they'll wait a year before really giving him a lot of starting reps and anything, and it tends to work out. So I could easily see Harris panning out.
Yeah, and you're up on the clock now.
Okay, so I am going to go with a tight end because why not at this point? I have 4 running backs, 4 receivers, and I don't love a lot of what's on the board. I'm actually going to scoop a guy who I know Kenny really likes. I am going to take Hunter Henry here. Look, I know his injury history is troubling, but I don't see many tight ends on the board better than him, so I just kind of want to grab him at this point and make sure that I have one of the top guys at the position.
I do love Hunter Henry. He's one of my favorite players. He's actually in my queue, or was until you just took him. So I won't be drafting him now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't resist, and I didn't want to get stuck with Evan Ingram and have Darius Slayton because then, I don't want to have just players on the Browns and Giants offenses.
Yeah, Kenny, you're up.
So I'm up here. This is the moment where I feel like, okay, I feel decent with my running backs. I feel like I need to build my receiver core. But I feel like there's some guys that I really like, but I feel like they're going to be, I could get them later, but that's all right. I'm going to probably reach a little here. So Christian Kirk is my guy. I love him. Opposite of Hopkins. I think that offense is going to be good, and I think he's a really good player. So I Christian Kirk is my, 4th receiver flex type guy. I think is great in the 9th round.
I would have taken him if I did not have Hopkins in the 9th round. So I do not think you're reaching. I think that's about the appropriate value with how this draft has fallen.
And I'm back up again. And so I think I'm going to continue to build my receiver core here in the 10th round. I feel like I need to. No, actually, I lied. Let me take that back. I'm going to draft. I'm going to draft the tight end here. The guy I like the most here is T.J. Hawkinson. I'm rewatching the 2019 season, and this guy is really good. And I don't think I realized he's a really good pass catcher, and he's a really good blocker. So he's going to be on the field a lot. He ended the year on injury. I guess I'm really surprised, and I'm surprised that he is not getting more love. There is one other tight end I like a lot more, or I like as much, maybe in round 11 or 12. But that's because I was expecting Hawkinson not to be there in the 10th.
Yeah, Kenny, I'm surprised. Like usually we're racing to see who's drafting quarterbacks and tight ends later, and you drafted both earlier, so kind of shocking to me. Jacob, you just took Matt Ryan. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, so again, I'm looking at the running back and receiver value, and I don't love it, so I'm going with the top quarterback on my board. Really, it was between Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, so there's a bunch of guys, so I could have waited, but I feel like 10th round is a good time to take a quarterback. I love Matt Ryan. He produces a ton. I know he produced a lot in garbage time last year, but in the 10th round at this point with all the weapons surrounding him, I think he's a good value, and I'll pick up a bunch of sleepers to help out my running back and receiving core in the next few rounds. But now I don't have to worry about tight end or quarterback anymore. So Kenny and I are deviating from our strategy that we usually do where we're all racing to wait. So we'll see how long you can wait now with less competition for that. Yeah,
there's unless I'm missing something, there's a quarterback who's I'm pretty shocked he's still available. I'm kind of confused by this. Aaron Rodgers is left on the board in round 10.
Mm-hmm. Shocked too. I was thinking the exact same thing. Okay, I'm very surprised he lasted this long.
I'm disappointed in myself that I have to draft a quarterback in the first 10 rounds. But if I'm going to do it and it's going to be in round 10 with Aaron Rodgers, sure. That's surprising to me. Although, in this format or in this draft group, a lot of people haven't drafted quarterbacks. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. All right, so I have to make another pick now, and going to go with a sleeper receiver. I like I've drafted him in a lot of drafts thus far. Anthony Miller, I talked about him a lot. He improved his work ethic in the second half of last year, and it carried over to this offseason. And his receivers coach was like really talking him up and talking about how he's really continued this work ethic. So I think Miller, who had a big finish to the 2019 season, is going to continue. And I like him in the 11th round. So So back to the quarterbacks, like. When Kenny, you took Deshaun Watson, we only had 4 quarterbacks chosen beforehand, which is that's not going to be a thing you see in most of your drafts that you do with people. Like Usually people draft quarterbacks early and they reach for them. I don't know why they just do it. I guess because it's the most important position of football, but not fantasy. So this is not a common thing you'll see. But yeah, I mean. Well, Kenny, I loved your pick of Watson. That's great value in the 8th round. But yeah, usually you'll see quarterbacks earlier. I don't anticipate Rodgers being available in the 10th round of any league I do, but I'll take him if he's there. So Jacob, you're up.
Yep, I am. All right, thank goodness. All right, one of my sleepers is on the board. I know this is a sleeper of yours too, Walt. I'm going with Justin Jefferson of the Vikings. I'm grabbing another receiver, which probably isn't the best idea, but the running back stable at this point is pretty barren, but Jefferson's probably going to play the slot there. Stephon Diggs is gone, so they really need a second receiver to pair with Thielen. So Jefferson was a first-round pick. I think he'll pan out, and if this was a real team, I would have so much talent at receiver that I could trade for running back if I needed it. So I'm comfortable with Jefferson in the 11th round.
Sure, your receiving core is very good. I mean, Cooper or Beckham as your second and third. I think that's great. And if Darius Slayton is as good as we think he's going to be, then you're going to have a possible receiver too. So you'll be able to trade one of Cooper or Beckham for a pretty good running back, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That would be my strategy. If you end up like taking a receiver early and miss out on running back talent, I think I would probably just load up on receiver and then set yourself up for the trade market and waiver wire. I think that's the way to do it. But draft running backs early.
Yeah. Kenny, you're up.
Taking a player I absolutely love. It's Preston Williams from Miami. Watching this guy's rewatching in 2019, watching his route running is superb. You may hear his name again when we do sleepers next week because I love him. I mean, I love watching games because there's players you fall in love with. You just realize, wow, this guy's so good. I don't care what the situation is. This guy's going to produce. He's going to be good enough to produce. Preston Williams, I think, is that kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, he came out of nowhere in training camp last year, and then he looked good in the preseason, but he got injured during the season. So I'm excited to see how he does in his second year. You're up again.
Yeah, and I'm just going to load up my receiving core here. This is a spot where if I had not drafted a tight end, this would be a tight end spot. There's a tight end that I absolutely love that I just don't understand why he's last around 12. I don't think anyone who knows me will be shocked as to who I'm talking about. If he gets taken, we'll talk about him. But in this case, I'm going to take a guy that I also love, that I've loved for several seasons. Temple tough, Mr. Robbie Anderson. When I say Temple tough, I mean 154 pounds tough.
Still pretty tough. And the tight end has to be Trey Burton, right?
Exactly, 100%.
Definitely.
I mean, he was the passer on the greatest play in any Super Bowl ever. I mean, of course, it's Trey Burton.
Yeah. We watched it in the bar in Minnesota. It was a great time.
I watched that happen and I felt nothing about it, which is like there was no pain. I was happy for the Eagles, believe it or not. I was totally okay with them winning that Super Bowl.
Because you picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl that year, right?
I picked Eagles over Patriots. Didn't bet on it before the season, so I was kind of bummed about that. But you live and learn. I'm going to live and learn. Take Darwin Thompson. He had a ton of buzz last year. I know he's behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But who all else do they have? Like DeAndre Washington, Elijah McGuire. One of these guys is going to step up. I don't mind taking a flyer on Darwin Thompson late. Again, I would prefer to draft more running backs early than have to settle for a guy like Thompson. But if Edwards-Helaire struggles or gets banged up because he's smaller, Thompson is not a bad guy to have around.
By the way, Team 4, Thanos Snappers, is doing my strategy of just drafting Jared Goff very late and just playing matchups with quarterbacks and just saying like F the position because that's probably what you need to do. So I'm looking forward to talking about his team. And also Team 3, I believe, is drafting well too. I'm on the clock. So I need a tight end. I I don't think you ever need a tight end, but I sort of have to draft the position. But team one already drafted a tight end, so I'm gonna say that he's not gonna draft a tight end, and I'm gonna go with another running back, Bryce Love. Sorry, Jacob, if you're gonna draft him late.
I was going to do that. My goodness.
So I added him to the sleepers page this week or today. So if you go to watsonfootball.com, it's the top link right now on the page, fantasy football sleepers list. I added Bryce Love, thanks in part to Jacob, by the way, because Jacob, you pointed him out, I believe a week ago when Darius Geis got released. Bryce Love is running as the number one running back right now when Peterson is taking some snaps off. And Peterson's 35. Like, he's not going to, like, there's a chance he doesn't last the entire year. And if that's the case, Bryce Love is probably the favorite to be the starter. Now, like, maybe he gets injured, hopefully not. But if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be the starter.
Yeah, and I was absolutely trying to get him in the 13th round. I had forgotten that you had added him to your sleepers list, so I should have been on board with that and waited on Thompson. But, yeah, I think Love has a high ceiling. Like, I think you're dead right. He might not be, like, getting many carries to start the year, but at some point, Peterson's going to slow down or need a rest. And when that happens, Love is the guy to carry it between the tackles. Unless we want to watch Peyton Barber do that again. That's usually not that fun to watch. No offense, Peyton.
Yeah, hopefully not. That would be terrible. I'm not gonna take Kenny's guy. I'm gonna take a guy I like slightly more because Mike Gesicki is going to play the slot in Miami, and in Chan Gailey's offense, the slot it catches a ton of passes. So I love Gesicki late. Going back to Bryce Love for a second. I mean, he was a former first round prospect, I should say. And then he got injured, and we haven't seen him healthy for a while. But maybe he's over those injuries. And if so, and if he could be the running back he once was at Stanford, he could do very well this year. Like say Peterson goes down with an injury, and Bryce Love starts. I think you can be an RB2 in fantasy potentially.
Definitely, because he can catch passes too. Like, they'll have Antonio Gibson to do that, but I don't mind the idea of Love catching passes out of the backfield. With Love off the board, I'm going to go with one of the top backs on my board who actually happens to be a handcuff for me, Duke Johnson. So at least I'll have the Houston starter. That doesn't always mean much when Bill O'Brien's there because he can, he'd probably switch Deshaun Watson to running back or trade him for Rex Burkhead like we always joke about. But Johnson in the 13th round, I'm good with that.
If Rex Burkhead is ever Houston's starting running back, I'm just going to die of laughter.
Nice.
All right, Kenny, you're about to be up. Do you take your tight end, even though you have one?
No. I mean, no, I will not take a tight end here. I already got one. I won't draft the second one. I wonder if he's going to go. It's just amazing to me that he lasts in drafts over and over again. But that's all right. This is the spot where I start. This is in a mock draft. This is Matthew Stafford just went. Who I like Stafford. Stafford's actually one of my guys. In the if you get a quarterback, if you wait until 10th or 11th round to get a quarterback, I think Stafford's a good option. I don't expect him to last till the 13th in most drafts, but he did here. This is a moment where in a real draft, I'd have to you have to get a kicker and defense. So this is your last or second to last pick. But I'm not going to draft a kicker or defense here. I'm just going to continue to draft position players because whatever, I don't care. So the guy I really like here, there's a couple guys I really like here, a couple sleeper guys, but there's one guy that I kind of like is kind of like Lamar Miller a little bit here. I don't know what Lamar Miller's opportunity is going to be in New England, but if he's healthy, I expect it to be decent and to be your fifth running back. I think you could do a whole lot worse. There's actually two other guys. Bryce Love, by the way, was not on my radar until yesterday. It's funny you guys are talking about him. And I just watched some clips of him from Stanford. So in my mind, I thought he would go undrafted. It's good to know I'm going to have to probably move him up on my boards if I want to get a hold of him.
I guess we shouldn't have done this mock draft before our actual draft because I'm giving away information, and so are you to me. So it's funny. Usually we're two of the more competitive teams in the league. So I guess we're hurting each other, sort of.
And then I'm just here, just picking all these guys and then being very non-confident in my team almost immediately. This is unusual. Usually I'm like pretty gung-ho about my team, but I have no faith in this squad that I've assembled.
Well, it'll be interesting to talk about our teams right after this draft is over. Kenny, you're up again.
Yeah, so again, I'm not going to take a kicker or defense. This is the spot. If I had not taken a quarterback early, there's a quarterback I'm loving that I'm watching him last so much longer. It's crazy to me. But anyway, I'm going to go my other sleeper running back is you'll hear his name, Mr. Eno Benjamin. He is the Arizona Cardinals. I just watched him a little bit today. He played at Memphis. 7th round pick. Not exactly he was a 7th round NFL draft pick, but I am convinced he's going to be a legitimate contributor on an NFL roster. So we could talk about him maybe in our sleeper show again, or after we're done drafting here.
He was not on my radar. Interesting name. I'll have to look him over. I remember him in college, and I think he went to Arizona State, didn't he?
Oh yeah, did I say Memphis?
Yeah, you're thinking Antonio Gibson, which is fair. Both
Arizona State. Sorry.
Yeah. He is Arizona's 3rd running back. That's an interesting name. I wish we had preseason games to kind of maybe Benjamin looks great and you're like, okay, let's draft him late. But we don't have preseason. This is kind of this is the toughest fantasy preseason we've had ever, because we had nothing to go on, just training camp puff pieces. And those are always you have to be careful with those, because reporters the 5th receiver on this team's looking great. And it's probably not going to make the roster.
Yeah, no, the puff piece stuff is always difficult to navigate through. But one thing I know, no matter how much you talk them up, the Patriots defense will always be really good, as long as they have what they have in the secondary. I know they lost a lot of linebackers this year, but they're going to get a ton of interceptions. They're playing Miami the first week, so Miami has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I like the Colts defense there too, but I'm following the Sporting News defense rankings, and don't bet against Stephon Gilmore, defensive player of the year, man. He is good.
Yeah, don't bet against Bill Belichick either. He's always going to have a great defense, or at least a very good defense. They have questions at linebacker, but they have a great secondary. They have some good defensive linemen. So I don't think the Patriots are going to have a crazy run like they had in the first half of last year, but they should still be a top 10 defense, I think. You mentioned the Colts defense. I'm going to take the Colts defense. Kenny, I'm in the same thought process as you, whereas you shouldn't draft defense or kicker, because you should draft as many sleepers as possible, because that gives you more chances to kind of hit a home run with your late picks. So unless you're drafting literally the day before the season starts, you should probably be avoiding defenses and kickers. I've been asked to draft defenses and kickers in this, just because some people have to. So that's the only reason why I'm doing it. But in our real draft, I'm not planning on drafting a defense or a kicker. So I have to take a kicker here. Is David Akers available? No. I will go with Josh Lambo, because sounds like a cool car.
I've always wanted Lambo to play on the Packers. I want Lambo to play on the Packers. It just seems too perfect.
I know, right? It's a shame that he doesn't. It's Josh Lambo at not Lambeau Field at what is Jacksonville's stadium? It used to be Alltel Stadium. I don't know what it is now. All these stupid corporate sponsored names for stadiums. I wish stadiums had more historic names. The Eagles used to have Veterans Stadium, which sounded great. It's oh man, it's for the veterans. Now it's Lincoln Financial Field. It's okay. So I don't know.
I'm going to take the Money Badger at kicker, by the way. Michael Badgley. He literally is called the Money Badger. You can't go wrong with that. He makes money kicks.
He does. I saw him miss a kick late. And when I was rewatching the game, it was late, but they were either blowing a team out or they're getting blown out. And the announcer was oh, that was not a money. It didn't need to be a money kick. So, I guess he is pretty clutch, or at least he pretends to be clutch, and I guess people believe that he is clutch because of that. So I don't know.
He actually won me a league one year. I'm not even kidding. I lost my kicker, I think, to injury, and I had picked him up, and he had 17 points. In my championship week, it was ridiculous, and so I have this love for Michael Badgley, even though he's he's fine, but he's also injured a lot. It's weird.
Kenny with Cam Newton.
I'm only taking him because I want to talk about him a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, talk about him. Go ahead.
I don't know where he's going to go. I mean, I was looking at ADP late last night on a couple of sites. He's as high as like on Fantasy Football Calculators. ADP is like 11 round. On Fantasy Alarm, he's undrafted. On Fantasy Pros, it's 14th round is his average. So like, it feels like he's all over the place. So to see him go undrafted in this mock is a little interesting to me. I think I'm going to end up with a lot of camp. Like I fully expect in most leagues, quarterbacks will go sooner than what we've seen in this mock. So when I get to round 8, if Deshaun Watson is there in most formats, I'm taking Deshaun Watson because I just love him and think he's amazing, and I want him on my team. In most drafts, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to get to round 10, and if Carson Wentz or Aaron Rodgers, one of those guys is available in round 10, then I'm taking him. But my guess is none of those guys or Matthew Stafford in round 11, my guess is none of those guys will be available when I draft that spot in most of my leagues. So I'm going to just punt the position until later. And my current strategy is I'm just going to go for Cam Newton. And, at some point in round 12 or 13 in most of my drafts, I think, because I fully expect him to be, if he's healthy and everything is right, I think the ceiling is like top 3 quarterback. I don't think that's an absurd expectation. Could he completely bust and it'd be a disaster? Sure. But I can, whatever. If I drafted him in the 13th round of 14, who cares? I could cut him and I'll stream the position all year like I've done. Quarterback is the easiest position to replace, in my opinion, in most league formats. So I guess I'm surprised. I don't know. Do you guys expect him in most leagues for him to actually last around 15?
I would be a bit surprised. I mean, he's a big name. Although I feel like if we had the preseason and he had a great game in the preseason, he'd probably be going in the 10th round, right? Like that's what I feel like. It is surprising to see him that late. Like, obviously I wasn't looking at quarterback because I had Rodgers already. But if I had to wait to the 12th round and Thanos snappers took Jared Goff, and I'm like, okay, I can't get Jared Goff, I think I would have gone with Cam Newton at the end of the 12th round. So that's my thought on that. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, so I'm a bad judge because I'm from New England, and I can guarantee you in my New England-based fantasy league, he will probably go in the 8th round. But I think that 11th round ADP that you mentioned is about the right spot. I think people will look at him as a good streamer for week 1 at the very least because they play the Dolphins early in the season. And then, some team might also just say hey, I'm going to take 2 quarterbacks. Why not grab Cam as a backup? If he pans out, great. I can either dangle him in a trade or play him in great matchups or play him the whole season. Or if he sucks, I can just cut him for someone else on the waiver wire. So I think the 11th round is going to be about right. Maybe he makes it into the 12th, but I'm gonna say the early double digits. He will go in most leagues.
Yeah, that makes sense. So before we talk about every team and our teams as well, 2 things. 1, please hit subscribe if you're watching YouTube. That would mean a lot. Hit the like button. That'd be great. Or share this video. 2nd, we're sponsored now by Underdog Fantasy. So you can go to the App Store on your phone and download Underdog Fantasy. It's a fantasy best ball app. And there are a variety of contests you can play. You can play like a $5 contest, and there are $100,000 in prizes there, or that you can play in a larger contest and go for the million. So definitely a lot of opportunities there. It's best ball, so it's not like daily fantasy where you have to go up against the Awesomos and the Chipotle addicts and the Papa Gates, like the top DFS players who are super sharp and have algorithms who are going to crush you most of the time. This is best ball, so you can draft whomever you want. Everyone has an equal chance to win. More so if you're good at it. So I would say download Underdog Fantasy. I can't use it personally because PA doesn't allow it yet. I'm hearing it's going to be soon. But I know you guys have had a chance to use Underdog app. Kenny, then Jacob, you want to talk about it real quick?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm in a bunch of leagues. I really like the idea of like a 3-man league or 3-person draft. It's kind of fun because it feels like when you're in a 12-team league, like, okay, everyone's going to get a few good players, but like if you're in a 3-person league, you really have to be sharp and like, hey, if I'm picking between Josh Jacobs and Devin Singletary and Miles Sanders, like you better really know which one of these guys you like. So it's definitely unique. I like different. I like unique. I like I like novelty. And so I'm a big fan. Yeah, I think everyone should download it and check it out.
Yeah, and I'm going to be entering the $1 million prizes worth tournament tonight. I think it's like $25 entry for the whole season. You draft one team. I'm thinking Bryce Love's going to help me win that. Knock on wood, someone doesn't steal him like he was stolen this time. But yeah, no, it's a slick app, well designed, very easy to use, and like Kenny, I love Best Ball because the buy-in is just so easy. You just enter the contest, you pick your dudes. And then you don't have to do anything for the rest of the season. You just follow it. It gives you an interest in every game because that's the one disadvantage I think of like traditional DFS is you're rooting for different players every night. With this, you don't have to make the lineup. You don't have to worry about playing the best guys and the best matchups. You just watch and see what they do and see if you can rack up a lot of points. So definitely check out Underdog Fantasy. They're really cool. And yeah, if you like Best Ball, they are the place to go.
Mm-hmm. And I'm jealous I can't play, but if I could play, I would use promo code Walter Football. That's one word, Walter Football. That's a great segue, by the way, if I say so myself. All right, let's get to discussing our teams. Kenny, you want to talk about your team first?
Yeah, I feel relatively confident about this team. I feel like I took some chances here, which ultimately you're going to have to do. I think if someone else is evaluating my team and they're going to go, well, it's good, not great, or maybe it's okay, competitive, but that's because I'm really high on a few players that I think other people are not as high on. So like I'm really high on Deonte Johnson. Like in my mind, I looked around where everyone else has him ranked. I am clearly way higher than him than anyone else I have seen on the internet right now. And you're pretty high on him, Walt, actually compared to the market. And I'm higher than you on him. So like, I think I look at that and think, man, he's awesome. But everyone else is going to be like, I'm really high on Preston Williams. So I think I'm really high on J.K. Dobbins. So I think this is an ultimate, like, this is kind of if I'm wrong on my takes, this team is not a playoff team, or this team is going to really struggle. But if I'm right on half of my takes, this team is a really good team and will kind of be unassuming early in the year, but will be really competitive. Of course, I think I'm right. So of course the team is going to be great.
Yeah, usually after every draft, you're like, oh, my team's great. Like, you're always going to win. Of course, there are always going to be injuries and stuff. But I like your team. It's a lot of upside. So you're kind of like swinging for the fences with the rookie running backs. And, of course, like no one has more upside than Tyreek Hill at receiver. He can just go off every single week. So, yeah, I like your team. Deonte Johnson, yeah, I was surprised to see you take him that early. But he's on my sleepers list. I like him a lot. So yeah, I think I would have drafted him in round 8 had he gotten back to me. Jacob, you want to talk about your team?
Yeah, so I'm not wild about my team. I love my receiving core. I mean, Hopkins, Cooper, and Beckham, like all of them were like first like 3-round picks last year, and I got them in 5 rounds. So like that's great. Slayton's a great sleeper. Jefferson's a great sleeper too. Running back's a different story. I like Nick Chubb a lot. I think he's a rock solid dude. I would have liked to also get Kareem Hunt. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but having both of them would guarantee me an elite running back 1 for the whole year. But, David Johnson, big injury risk. Duke Johnson as the backup is fine, but I just don't have like a solid RB2, and that could really kill my team, especially if Chubb gets banged up or if Hunt takes more touches than we're anticipating he might take from Chubb. So I have some concerns about the running back core. I think everything else is rock solid, so this team would be competitive. But again, if Chubb and Johnson don't pan out, my season would absolutely be over before it started. So I think this is a good lesson of even when you have a strong receiving core, it doesn't really matter if you don't have that strong RB2 or at least 2 really rock solid options to compete for that. Like what you have, Kenny. I think Swift and Dobbins, I think one of those guys definitely pans out. But for me, between David Johnson, Tevin Coleman, Marlon Mack, and Duke Johnson, I don't know if one of those guys pans out.
Yeah, I love it.
Sorry. No, yeah, I think between those 4 guys, I would feel maybe better than you do about that one of those guys would pan out. So I like the idea of saying, you know what, I'm going to, and that's again, maybe because I really love Tevin Coleman. I've kind of been a little bit of a Tevin Coleman truther at some point, to some extent. So I think maybe I would be high, and I'm kind of a Duke Johnson truther a little bit too. So maybe I'm more confident on those guys just because of the players you have.
Yeah, I love the receiving core. If David Johnson pans out, you have a great team. But who knows? Who knows with him? Like, he's the ultimate wild card. I feel like this year. My team, obviously, as I said before, Derrick Henry. That should be Saquon Barkley. I clicked the wrong check mark there, but luckily they let me draft the rest of this. And I wanted Devin Singletary or Le'Veon Bell in the second round. They got drafted earlier, but I'm still happy with Melvin Gordon. I think he's going to have a nice year with Denver. Denver should do very well this year. Todd Gurley is my third running back. He's very risky, so ideally he shouldn't be your second running back, but third running back, I think that's perfectly fine. And then I went receiver heavy after that. I got a bunch of number ones. DJ Moore's the number one. AJ Brown's the number one. Will Fuller's the number one. And then when Samuel comes back from injury, he's the number one. So it just shows that you can draft receivers later. Then I went sleeper heavy with Chase Edmonds, Damian Harris, Anthony Miller, Bryce Love, and then shockingly got Aaron Rodgers in the 10th round. So I like the team. I like the team quite a bit. Like I said, I wish I could have gotten Singletary or Bell in the second round, but I'm still pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I love your sleeper picks, like Edmonds, Harris, and Love. Like, I feel like two of those guys could pan out at least. Like, they might all pan out too. So you could have a stacked running back room because of what you did. So I think your team is well set to be competitive. And landing Aaron Rodgers that late, like, I know I've championed getting him in the 10th round at times, but I zigged at this point and went with Matt Ryan instead. But I think this just goes to show you, like, you can get a good quarterback late, even if guys go earlier than this in a traditional draft.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some other teams. So maybe we can. I think we're over an hour now. So maybe we can take turns going over each team in sequential order. So like I'll do B Lash, and then Kenny can handle E, and then Jacob can do Thanos snappers. So we'll do it that way. So with B Lash. He kind of used our strategy that we like, going running back early, McCaffrey, Eckler, Carson. It's a great start to building a team. And then he went receiver heavy as I did. Juju, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, and then Darren Waller, tight end. I would draft a tight end later, but if you really love Waller and you think he should go earlier than that, then I'm perfectly fine with that. Mecole Hardman has a ton of upside in round 9. Sammy Watkins is banged up already. Tyreek Hill had a slight injury today. Shouldn't be a big deal with Tyreek Hill, but if one of those guys goes down during the regular season, Hardman could have a huge year. And then Jalen Reagor has some nice upside as well. Potentially he's the Eagles, maybe number 2 receiver. Then Michael Pittman as well. He could be a number 2. Jerick McKinnon, another San Francisco running back. If he's healthy, if he's finally healthy, it's kind of like Bryce Love. Like, we haven't seen him play in a long time. I think he can pan out. So I like B Lash's team. So Kenny, you want to talk about team number 3, which is E?
Yeah, I think this, if E is listening, great job. This is probably my favorite team of the 12, if I'm honest. I love it. Now, I mean, obviously it's because Saquon Barkley's at the top. So in theory, Saquon wouldn't be there, but it would be Zeke Elliott or Nick or Alvin Kamara or Nick Chubb. It'd be one of the guys that I love. And then Devin Singletary, who I absolutely love. I mean, I'm a big Devin Singletary fan. I love that he went 4 running backs in the first 6 rounds and 5 in the first 8. That's kind of the strategy I'm going for. I don't love Adrian Peterson, but I like the strategy there. Cortland Sutton, I love in the 5th round. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have drafted him in the 4th. In some mocks, I've actually drafted Cortland Sutton in the late 3rd in a couple mocks where I've been in, where a team where I felt like he wasn't going to make it because of the guys I was drafting against. So I love Cortland Sutton. I am convinced there will come a time where he's the best receiver in the NFL. I said that last year. I think after about week 9, I'm just so convinced this guy's going to be great. So big fan of that. Emmanuel Sanders, I had put in my queue to draft in the 9th round before I drafted Christian Kirk. So he took him there. Carson Wentz in the 10th. I mean, in my mind, this is kind of the perfect spot to take a quarterback. In my mind, late 10th, early 11th, and the guys I'm looking at in that spot are Wentz, Matthew Stafford, maybe a Cam Newton. If an Aaron Rodgers is there, like that, those are the guys I'm looking at in that spot. So great stuff. Jared Cook is probably the one guy here that I don't really love. I just think he's just a guy. I don't love Jared Cook. He lucked into a lot of touchdowns last year. I think that's less likely to happen with Emmanuel Sanders on that squad. So I don't really love Cook, but that's fine. Alan Lazard, I don't know what to make of the second receiver there. I don't know. I don't know. Jacob might end up being the second receiver in Green Bay next year. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. They just at that point, I feel like you're throwing darts. I think there are way better guys that I would have taken my chance on. There are other receivers that I would have taken my chance on before Allen Lazard in the 12th, but not terrible. I think overall, really good team.
Yeah, and I would say that I probably won't be the number 2 receiver in Green Bay next year. I'm more linebacker size, so they can sign me to play that position or fullback. I really want to be a fullback if I was in the NFL, but
is that still a thing? Fullbacks still exist in football?
They should. The teams that are good have fullbacks. That's my theory, but it's also wrong objectively. So anyway, Thanos Snappers is the 4th team. I love what they did at running back. They drafted 5 in the first 6 rounds and added Julio Jones to boot in the 2nd. So I think that their team is just really rock solid at the running back position, but they also have a top tier wideout. Like Julio might be my 2nd favorite wide receiver in fantasy this year, maybe 3rd. You can kind of mess around with the order there. But between Fournette, Mostert, Akers, and Madison, I think 2 of those guys are going to be solid starters at running back. If not more, I think Madison has sky-high upside and could easily replace Dalvin Cook if he gets banged up. You look at the receiving core, too. You got Michael Gallup, Deshaun Jackson, John Brown, Brashad Perryman beyond Julio. The one thing I don't like is they're all a little inconsistent, but they're also all burners that can just put up massive numbers in good matchups. So I think that if you mix and match a couple of or one of them really with Julio, you're going to have a good team. And even more depth at running back. I mean, Keyshawn Vaughn, Raekwell Armstead, they could pan out. And pairing Armstead and Fournette guarantees that you have the Jacksonville lead back no matter what, in all likelihood. Jared Goff, we've talked about, as a late-round streamer. I love Hayden Hurst in the 13th. Matt Ryan just loves throwing to his tight end. So at that point, taking a chance on Hurst makes a lot of sense to me. So I think this is a really good team. It's one of my favorites. Just any team that's really deep at running back, I tend to love. So well done, Thanos Snappers, and way to snap up some guys before I wanted them. You really lived up to your name there.
Yeah, he didn't draft a quarterback or a running back, non-receiver until round 12, so I'm definitely a fan of that. 2 for Stu, team number 6 is next to discuss. So I like the strategy of going, three running backs and then going receiver. But I'm not a big fan of Kenny and Drake. He's never handled the full workload. So I think I would have gone with Devin Singletary or Melvin Gordon instead. So Drake is pretty high on my bust list, so I definitely don't recommend that. Jonathan Taylor is he went earlier than I expected, but I think I should probably be anticipating that more now because running back is so thin, and I think people who are least paying attention have realized that, and it seemed like this was a very sharp group that we drafted with, and so I think they understand that, and that's why we saw so many running backs go. Only one quarterback until before 312. That's uncommon to see in most fantasy drafts. I don't mind Jonathan Taylor. I don't like Kenny Drake. And then he went Metcalf and Ridley, which I really like. Zach Ertz, I'm not a big fan. I love Ertz as a tight end. Don't get me wrong, but to draft a tight end that early, I think you have to go receiver or running back and look at. He's instead of going, Will Fuller or Keenan Allen or Deebo Samuel in round 6, because of that, his 3rd receiver is Julian Edelman, in standard. That's not great with no Tom Brady there. And his 4th receiver is Sammy Watkins, who's always injured. And then he has Golden Tate, who I guess is okay. The receiving core could have been better if he waited on a tight end. And kind of curious to see if Kenny's tight end went. He did not. So instead of Zach Ertz in round 6, maybe take Dallas Goedert in round 13. So I think that's what I would have done. So, Kenny, you want to talk about team number 7, JB?
Yeah, real quick, I'll just one statement. Dallas Goedert, in my opinion, is better than 6 of the tight ends that were drafted in this mock draft. That's that. So you may hear his name again when we talk about sleepers. I love Dallas Goedert. I think he's amazing. Speaking of JB here, I got to be honest, Mr. JB. I don't know who you are. I don't really like this team. I don't. Number one, I don't like Chris Godwin above several guys I think are better. I don't think Chris Godwin's the best receiver on his team. I think there are several receivers that I have I am really low on Chris Godwin compared to most people. Chris Godwin being drafted in the 2nd round like he's a number 1 receiver, I just don't understand that. at all. It's just very odd to me. So anyway, and Michael Thomas, I love Michael Thomas. I would just rather take a running back here. I love Thomas, but I think to me, I'm taking Joe Mixon ahead of Michael Thomas. I'm taking Josh Jacobs ahead of Michael Thomas at this point. And so to me, Michael Thomas, if I'm in the 9th or 10th spot and all the running backs are gone that I love, then Michael Thomas is the right pick there. Not a terrible pick, just I don't think it's not my favorite. James Conner here at number 3. I think he's got bust potential all over him. David Montgomery, as I'm rewatching 2019, has elite blindness. The guy, he just can't. Like the guy is unbelievable at how good he is at missing the holes when the offensive line opens him up. And you can watch all 22s with David Montgomery. It's remarkable. The guy, it seems like he's got the athleticism to be a decent running back, but he just doesn't take what's blocked for him, which is what's just to be average. You got to just see the hole and just hit the hole. And the guy is just terrible. I would not be surprised if David Montgomery is the kind of guy that's like out of the NFL in 2 years. So I don't want him on my fantasy team anywhere near that. Cooper Kupp, I'm a big Cooper Kupp fan in general. And I think it's fine here. But when your team is, I don't know, to me, your running back position needed to be addressed in these middle rounds. Russell Wilson and a tight end. I love Russell Wilson and I love Rob Gronkowski, but I just don't like him in these spots. To me, I'm not drafting a quarterback before round 8 or 9, and I'm not drafting a tight end before round 10, preferably not to round 12. So Damian Williams is not playing. So I don't know if he went in the auto draft in this moment here, but it feels like Josh, your second quarterback, second tight end before round 10 just seems all a little odd to me. The one pick that I kind of like on this team is Alshon Jeffrey in 13. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what to make of Alshon Jeffrey. I don't know where to rank him. I don't know where to put him. I have no idea. But there's a scenario where he's like the Eagles' best receiver, right? I mean, so I have no idea what to make of him, but maybe not a bad pick. So overall, sorry, JB, I don't love this squad.
Jacob, do you want to talk about PJ number 8?
Yeah. I have similar feelings about PJ that Kenny has about JB. I don't like Dalvin Cook. We've been over this a million times. I'm just not a Cook fan. If you're going to draft him, you have to draft Alexander Madison to handcuff him, because then at least you're protected for when he inevitably gets injured. I get that Cook may have been the top ranked running back on the board by some rankings, but I still would have rather had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs over him. So I don't love that. Quarterback and tight end, back-to-back picks. Yeah, you're stacking Chiefs. Yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, two of the best players in their position. But one, I think George Kittle is a little bit better than Travis Kelce. And two, you're missing out on running back and receiver talent, and it shows. The recovery at the receiver position was it ended up being okay. I don't think they have a true wide receiver one. There's a lot of injury-prone players like T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks. I don't want to trust them. And then, I don't think N'Keal Harry's going to do much. Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy, I like Jerry Jeudy a lot. I think he'll pan out. Ruggs, I don't love his fit in Oakland or Las Vegas now. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But the thing that stands out to me is this running back room. There are 3 running backs, first of all, and I think all of them could not have jobs by like week 4. So that's not great. Michelle, I think, will start the year on PUP too. So I think that's something to keep an eye out on. And then Ingram, I liked him last year. He was great, but the presence of J.K. Dobbins just worries me too much. So I think this is probably one of my least favorite teams just because of their complete lack of running back depth. But to each their own. Maybe Patrick Mahomes throws 20 touchdowns to Travis Kelce and it pans out, and I look stupid looking back at this. But I would tend to bet on this team not being a playoff squad.
Yeah, I agree. Team 9, Matt. So I don't know if this is done intentional or not. And as I said, Jacob and I have said before, in these fantasy drafts, you should kind of experiment to see what happens. So he drafted 1 running back in the first 7 rounds. That was Joe Mixon. So doing that in a mock draft is fine. If you do this in real life, you're going to have a pretty bad team. His running back core is Joe Mixon, Kerryon Johnson, Zach Moss, Darrell Henderson. Mixon's great, but outside of that, he doesn't have a running back, that's starting right now. Kerryon Johnson is, he's probably going to lose the job to DeAndre Swift. Zach Moss is the number 2 in Buffalo. Darrell Henderson, who knows if he's even going to play. So this running back core is pretty brutal for Matt. Receivers are fine. Devontae Adams, Kenny Galladay. It's a nice start. Robert Woods, I like. Terry McLaurin, I like as well. But he sacrifices running backs to go tight end, quarterback. But that's not even that great. Like Mark Andrews in a normal year will be fine, but he has diabetes and he might have to sit out some games. So he said he's going to play, but who knows? He could always change his mind. The doctors could kind of tell him that he should sit out a game or two if there are some infections in the Ravens locker room. And then Dak Prescott, I think he's a little overrated. He's better in fantasy than real life. But I still think he's a little overrated there. So I'm not a big fan of Matt's team. So Kenny, you want to talk about Pinto and then Jacob rounding it out with Team 12?
Yeah, I think philosophically speaking, I like this approach. I don't know that I agree with all the players. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I know everyone loves him, and I was kind of all in on him as well. Just this week, there's a couple guys I really follow. One of them being Matt Waldman. I don't know if you know, Matt Waldman, rookie scout report, rookie scouting portfolio. Going into the draft, he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire as the 7th best running back in this class, which I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. And I really like Matt Waldman. He's got a great track record. I respect him a lot. So it's given me significant pause. I think he's probably wrong on that ranking. But, I was shocked. That's very low. I don't think anyone else I saw have him that low. So it gives me pause to draft Edwards-Helaire now in the first 2 rounds. Honestly, it's made me that worrisome about it going in. Again, I don't watch a lot of college football, so I can't say that I know for sure. But that being said, it makes me nervous to draft. So if that's true, I'm not sure how to make of that. Lev Bell, I love. I was actually surprised to see him to go early second because his ADP's been lower. But I love Le'Veon Bell, love Adam Thielen, Kareem Hunt. There's a little question mark there, but not bad. AJ Green to me has the biggest spread, the biggest range of outcomes. Like if AJ Green is like the 8th best receiver in fantasy, that wouldn't surprise me. If AJ Green is like the 58th best receiver in fantasy this year, that wouldn't surprise me either. Like just no one seems to have a larger swing this year than AJ Green, and I would imagine AJ Green is either going to sink some teams or win some championships this year. Devontae Parker, I like. Jordan Howard, Matt Breida. I don't know that I love taking 2 Miami running backs in the first 8 rounds, but I understand. Again, I like the philosophy of this team a lot. I just don't know that I love the players that he was taking here. Tyler Higbee, by the way, I am really down on Tyler Higbee. After I'm watching 2019, I don't think he's good. I don't think he should be. I'm not sure he's going to be my top 20 tight ends, and I think I'm going to be way lower on him than everyone else. I think it's very odd. Daniel Jones, I'm a little down on over the last few weeks, but he's fine. I don't dislike him there. I was higher on him a few weeks ago as I'm rewatching 2019. Big Ben, if he's healthy, he could be a top 10 quarterback. So I agree with the philosophy. I think some of these are fine. This team could be a really good team, but there's a few spots that make me go, this team could totally bust and be a 3-win team.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think I like their players more than you, Kenny. I think we have some differences in that regard, but I could definitely see it. As for the last team, 24 Flinching, I like this team overall. Getting Miles Sanders and Aaron Jones back-to-back in the first on the turn was very smart. I think that gives them 2 solid running backs. And that's what allowed them to do the Lamar Jackson, George Kittle turn. I love the value on that more than the Mahomes Kelsey picks.
Yeah.
They're not great by any means in terms of value, but they're at least good. I think Tyler Lockett was a phenomenal pickup in the 5th round. And then I think the going heavy at receiver and stacking up with Marquise Brown, Jarvis Landry, Tyler Boyd, they should be able to get 3 starters out of that group. So you get 2 receivers in a flex play. So that's solid. And then they picked a bunch of running back handcuffs and rookies with upside. I love the Antonio Gibson pick in round 10. I know I sung the praises of Bryce Love, but I think Antonio Gibson plays a role there too. I think those 2 are the long-term future in Washington. Whether or not they fully take over for Peterson this year remains to be seen, but I would not be surprised if by the end of the year they're the 1-2 punch there. So getting Gibson in the 10th round was smart. I like Dillon too. I don't know if he gets a lot of touches, but he has some guys that can pan out there. And realistically, Lamar Jackson will help carry this team. So I think if you're picking 12th, this is a good demonstration of you can take a quarterback and a tight end early so long as you already have 2 running backs. The only thing you can't do is take those 2 positions early and then not load up on like quality running backs. I'm not talking like the Dalvin Cooks of the world. I'm talking about guys that project to really like be healthy for the full 16-game season and have good athletic ability. So I think if you're looking for that blueprint, follow the Team 12 blueprint here.
Yeah, I like that. I think I would have gone with just one of those, Jackson/Kittle, but you can do that. I mean, and plus it's a mock draft, so you can experiment. And I think overall, like his top end running backs are great. Running back depth is a little compromised, but I like the team overall. So we have one comment that says Jacob will live in Boston and Cam will be the 3rd quarterback off the board. Maybe we'll see. And then Hot Dog City asks, which pick in the 1st round did Daniel Jones go? Daniel Jones is so good that he wasn't even drafted like that. Well, he was drafted 11th round, but he was almost drafted before we started drafting. That's how good he was. All right. That's about it. Let's go to Kenny, then Jacob. Any final thoughts or things to plug?
Yeah, nothing to plug. Although I'm posting a lot on Twitter. Anyone who wants to follow me at Fantasy Jabber, and if you want to troll me, I'll be glad to take it and troll you back. Let's do it. Final thoughts. I love mock drafting. I just think it's so helpful to draft, do lots of drafts. I'm doing more and more the last, as I'm preparing for some round or some drafts. I'm excited. I love being able to look and see, where I expect a player to go, and then where he's actually going in some of these drafts. So it's a lot of fun, and it kind of helps really build some strategy. So all that to say, recommendation, do a lot of mock drafts before you do your real drafts.
Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to Cassandra. It's nice to know that I have a fellow New Englander and Bostonian watching. Pretty fun here. One that's not my dad. No offense, Dad, whenever you watch this. But I know I see you all day. I agree with everything you said, Kenny. Doing mock drafts is great. It really helps you prepare because there's nothing better than when you go into your real draft, having done a lot of really difficult mock drafts with sharp people. And we've gotten a lot of sharp people the last month in our draft room. So props to the people who have come out and do that, because every time I draft with my league, I feel like I'm really well prepared. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jacob Camenker. I'll be posting a lot of links to my work at Sporting News. We've got a ton of fantasy coverage over there. I'll hype up my fantasy O-line rankings. They just basically rank the 32 offensive lines in the league and kind of talk about who they might impact in terms of fantasy players and who they might not impact. So that's a little bit of more unique take. So check that out, and feel free to tweet at me with questions, and always happy to talk football on there.
Nice. I look forward to seeing that, not just for fantasy, but also knowing which teams to kind of fade in our NFL picks, which we will be discussing come September. So I'm looking forward to discussing the NFL picks against the spread. I'm already starting to write up week 1. That's how like eager I am to start the season, because there's no preseason football to bet on. So I don't know what to do with myself. All right. I'm at walterfootball.com, on Twitter at walterfootball. Tons of fantasy content. As I said earlier, we published our fantasy sleepers, our updated sleepers page, and also our bust page. Going to do value picks later. We have 2021 NFL mock drafts as well. So Charlie's going to update his on Monday. Charlie has some NFL draft hot presses that he's posted, including like something teams have said about the teams that the Big Ten and Pac-12 canceled their seasons, like something about the prospects in regard to them canceling the season. So I thought that was very interesting. Good read from Charlie. So we have a ton of content as always. And once again, please hit subscribe or hit the like button or share this with someone who likes football. So that is it. We'll be doing another mock draft next week. And as Kenny alluded, we'll be doing a fantasy sleepers and busts next week. Usually we record on Tuesday, but it sounds like we're going to be recording on Wednesday around this time next week. So definitely check that out. Otherwise, I will talk to you later, guys.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you then.
Bye.